I've been a long time Canon shooter for still photography. I've had the R5 for several years when it came out, and this has been probably the best still photography camera I've ever used. But because I'm doing more hybrid video and still photography, I find that the Canon R5, and I don't have the R5 Mark II, but I find that the Canons are harder to do more hybrid for a low price point. And that's why I am switching to Sony. So I got the Sony A7RV, and I'm gonna compare and contrast these two cameras together for my use case of more on the stills side, but then the whole ecosystem and the benefits of what I think Sony has over Canon. The Sony is surprisingly compact for what's inside here, with the 61 megapixel sensor versus the 45 megapixel sensor in the R5. The handling of it is interesting because the Canon, I've always loved the handling of the R5. I felt like this was a perfect size grip for my hand. And the Sony has quite a different hand grip placement here. And it's comfortable at certain angles when I hold it like this, but not like this. I like to grip it like a football, not like almost like a point and shoot of how Sony makes you grip these cameras here. So you can see the grips are very different design. I don't know which is best. I'm just more accustomed to the R5, but the Sony is interesting. I'm getting the hang of it. The other things that I miss on the Sony here that the Canon was really great with was the LCD right here on the top. So without looking at the viewfinder, without looking at the LCD, when I'm operating the camera, I could see all of my settings that I need to know on the LCD when I'm shooting still photography. And then here on the Sony, I don't think any of this budget level of Sony and lower has LCDs. It looks like they're all dials, which are fine as well. I like physical dials, but over the years, the LCD up top has come in handy. And the last thing that I like about the Canon over the Sony is I find just the overall operation of photography. And this again could be, I'm just so used to using this as a still photography camera. I can shoot really fast and nail focus, nail my framing, nail my composition, and directly out of camera with just a few settings in Lightroom, my photos look phenomenal. I think they look really fantastic, really pro, and it's for me easy to accomplish that. So far with the Sony, I'm just starting out with it, and I'm finding the photos take a little more work to get as pleasing of a look that I was getting with the R5. So this again is probably due to I'm just more used to the R5. Now, what's really great about the A7RV is this articulating screen right here, the LCD screen, how it moves like this. This is very similar to what I use for this Panasonic GH6 and 7. I like this a lot. Very good designed LCD. And the buttons are all easy to access. I like how the layout is of all of the plugs here. Great. And I do like that this can accept two SD cards or two CF Express A cards. And the Canon here, you have to have the CF card, the Express B, or the SD card. You can't put double. So you would have to get the CF Express card B in order to utilize two card slots at the same time. Or if you're shooting video or you want to shoot really high speeds and you have to use the CF Express card, the B slot, you just need that. Whereas the Sony right here, I think it gives you more flexibility. And that's what I really love so far about the Sony system of giving users a lot of options. Whereas Canon, for me anyways, it seems like they force you into their ecosystem and then they don't give you a lot of options. One last thing that I've noticed that I liked with Canon, and I'm not really liking with Sony, is that Canon has the way you put on the straps, camera strap, they have a built-in strap in metal right here, the hooks. And it's really easy to slide anything in. It's into the body. And if you don't want them, it could be like this, and it's very clean. Whereas Sony, it seems like all of these Sony bodies have this little knot and then their little D-rings. I don't like the D-rings, this design at all. The Panasonic GH6 had this, and then I think the Lumix it has this version, but this gets pretty annoying. I don't like the D-ring design. I much prefer Canon's design of these longer rings for the straps built into the body, and you don't even notice them. When it comes to some of the accessories, to compare the battery grips, so with these two cameras, I got the battery grips for both because when I do photography, I like to shoot vertical, and then I do a lot of portraits now. So having a grip is necessary for a lot of portraits. So these are the battery grips. This is the official Canon R5 battery grip, and this is the official Sony A7RV grip, but it also fits a few other models, not just the A7RV. But this one for the R5, I believe only fits the R5 and then the R5C, the Cinema, but it doesn't really fit any other Canon. So here you can see it is bigger. The battery grip is, to me, significantly bigger because when I hold this grip in my hand, the bottom grip is much wider than the grip on the Canon R5. So it becomes a little bit of a problem to readjust my grip, but it's fine. This is it. All of the buttons feel and work and operate exactly like it does on camera, and I'm okay with this. And how it opens, like that. There you go. And you have not only the 1/4-20, but you have this locating anti-twist little hole. With the Sony, it also has a similar grip shape to the body of the A7RV, but I like this a lot better. It fits my hand better, and I'm able to hold it in different orientations, not just this like almost vertical. I can hold it like a football. And I like this grip more than the Canon R5's grip. All of the buttons feel just like the body of the A7RV. And it's smaller. It works. The way you open up this one opens like this. And it only has one 1/4-20. It does not have the 1/4-20 with the anti-twist hole right there, like a traditional video tripod hole. Here they have the hook for the strap. And the other thing about this here is that I don't see another place where you can plug in external power. So with the battery grip on the R5, you can put in the R5 adapter battery grip or third parties. So you have a third party battery DC, you plug it in here, or you just put in one battery, and then you have a little notch here that opens up. And then this notch is where the DC cable can come out, and then you could plug it into the wall. So you can use the grip and use the battery DC. I don't think you could do it with the Sony here. It doesn't look like there's a way to do it. So you have to power the camera in other ways than what I'm used to. Maybe how they design it, Sony design it, is better, but I'm just used to the Canon here. And finally, when it just comes to the body design, and the usability of the camera. I'm not really talk about the internals yet with the differences, but overall lens options. The Canon, I like the lens quality, but it's really not. There's not a lot of variety with the Canon, and they make you pay premium for their lenses, and they're big. They're really, really big. So here is one of the more used lenses that I have in my lineup. This is the 24-70 2.8, very common focal length, mid-range zoom, and this is their best one. This is the one that Canon, for as far as the 24-70 goes, there's the 28-70 that is f2, but this is the 24-70. It's a great lens. I love this lens for general purpose. This is excellent. And the equivalent for the Sony is here. There's their E-mount. This is the 24-70 2.8, but this is the GM2. So this one, same focal length, same coverage for full frame, but size-wise, this one's smaller. Also, the lens mounts that I've noticed, Canon versus Sony, the E-mount, the diameter is quite small compared to the diameter of the RF lens mounts here. So you can look at the lens mount. It's way smaller. And that's good and bad. I think it's good because to me it seems like the lenses are just smaller, more compact. But it also, when I'm gripping the camera, because the diameter here is smaller, you end up having a lens that shrinks down right around the diameter where it connects to the camera, and that makes it easier or gives you more room for your fingers to seat in. So there's more room right here between the lens and the camera body. Whereas with Canon here, because the diameter of the lens mount itself is wider, when I'm having bigger lenses like this, I don't have as much room. But Canon also is just making their bodies wider, but it depends, because I have a R7 as well. And with the R7, I've noticed the same thing. If you have a really big lens here, it gets kind of in the way of your fingers. But the Sony, I don't think you'll ever have that problem. I got a 7C Mark II, and even this one, it's a pretty compact camera. And you can see with this lens, this is a 20-70, because the E-mount has a smaller circumference right here, diameter. It says smaller diameter. It's easier to fit my fingers in. The Canon here has this third ring. So there's the zoom, there's the focus, and then they have this third ring that you could program for whatever you want. And the Sony, they have a few other tricks. So you have the aperture ring that's declickable right here. I love having the aperture ring here. You have the zoom, focus, and then you have these two control buttons here that you can program for whatever you want. I like that ability. This is an 82 lens thread, and then the Canon is an 82, even though this looks smaller. When completely zoomed out though, I believe the length is similar. Yeah, it's a similar length, but this just feels smaller. So when I'm traveling on jobs, I'm liking the more compact, lighter size of the Sony versus the Canon. And then when it comes to the hybrid video and still photography, that's where I'm seeing way more advantages of Sony already. So the Sony is just, I think right now, superior video to the Canon. The Canon R5 Mark II fixed some of the issues with the R5, but you pay a lot more money for it. So some of the limitations of the R5 was that it was limited to about 30 minutes of 4K recording. The 8K, there would be overheating, and you would have to use certain codecs. You don't have a variety of codecs, and there was only Canon Log 3. You didn't have Canon Log 2. The R5 Mark II fixes most of those problems, but you have those limitations. And then the Sony, it gives you everything. So many different frame rates and codecs. And then you also have great autofocus. You have the whole ecosystem of hot shoe accessories. Their little hot shoe, you can have their microphones and then their wireless systems and then third party, all with their hot shoe. Canon doesn't have that. Canon doesn't even make an XLR module if you want to do XLR or like a higher end audio. You have to get a third party. I think Tascam makes one that's compatible with it, whereas Sony has so many accessories for that hot shoe. And I also like that the E-mount here with this one, it puts the shutter down just like the R5. So it used to be that the Canons were the only ones that had the shutter down when it was not in operation, but now Sony's doing that. So the dust protection. So those are my overall thoughts so far as somebody who's been using Canon and is now switching to Sony. I'm still getting used to it, and I'll post more videos of a lot of other things that I'm doing with Sony, because I'm also getting rid of my Panasonic gear that I use specifically for video, and I'll do a comparison with that later. Just before I end this video, I will pull out my Panasonic. This is the Panasonic S5 II, which is the same as the S5 IIX in a lot of ways, especially the body design. And the S5 II, one of the reasons I love this for video, it's got great, fantastic image stabilization on video and in stills. And it shoots open gate, whereas these two don't shoot open gate. But this is only 24 megapixels. And while it's good for video, for stills photography, for my needs, for the work that I do, I need more megapixels because I do a lot of cropping and reframing in post. So when I'm shooting at 24 megapixels, it does not give me a lot of options when I want to like crop in half. Then I'm only stuck with 12 megapixels. Whereas I can crop in a ton with these two, especially the Sony now at 61 megapixels. I could really crop in and then still have the sharpness with the megapixel count.